Hello everybody, I'm Antonia and this is Noel and we are from Boxtail Soup Theatre Company and this is another Boxtail Scoop. We have been busy this week. Firstly, of course, which I always keep forgetting actually, if you are enjoying the vlogs, please do like, subscribe or leave us a comment, that would be great.
And thank you to those who have.
Oh yeah, absolutely, welcome. So we are going to just show you basically what we've been getting up to over the last week and the progress that we've been making with the puppets and with the set. The vlog is going to be in two parts, so the first part will be about the puppets, the second part will be about the set, so if you're more interested in one or the other, that's where you'll find it. I have finished making the real bodies for the puppets, so all that needs doing now with them is their heads need painting, and then we need to attach the ribbon round the back of the head with some Velcro so that it's firmly attached. At the moment they're a bit wibbly, but we thought we'd show you them. So we'll start with the little Robin. Here she is, and we're very pleased with her actually, and she does flap quite well. There we go. That is a little bit awkward because the head's a little bit slippy around the thing, but I bought some appropriately coloured ribbon to do the wing mechanism and to attach the head with for the colours of the fabric, but I'm really pleased with the little ribbon.
I mean, it looks great. It's come out absolutely fantastically. And I think, you know, I think we were saying before that when you've made a prototype and it's worked nicely, especially if it's something that's slightly imprecise, like where there might be a little bit of more stuffing or less stuffing, or it's very difficult to make things exactly the same, it's always kind of a relief when the finished article then kind of turns out
works.
Really, turns out nicely. I think that looks brilliant. Can't wait to get some of the colour onto the head.
Onto the face, yeah, absolutely. And so here's the owl. So as we said before, this one's got a slightly different wing mechanism in order that the owl can sort of glide more than flap. So it's just got ribbons attached between the two wings that then you can just lift like that. We decided to do the owl kind of two-tone. So we've got this lovely grey batik and then the brown. And in fact, contrary to the prototype, I decided to give most of them two colours at the front, a bit like the robin, because it just is nice. It gives them a bit more texture, makes them look a little bit less flat potentially. The fabric is great, isn't it? Because it looks like feathers or fur, depending on what the
fabric's fantastic. And I think in the finished article, once we've painted the heads, we're also going to include some fabric on the heads and on the faces to kind of tie it in with the rest of the body and make it feel like one thing.
Which is what we did with the frog in Little Grim as well. This is the Magpie, who was causing me sort of problems in the prototyping because it's a little bit complicated, and then caused me problems in the finished, the real one, but he's got a really nice flap.
Brilliant.
But it was the patterning on the wings that was really, really tricky. So they've got, as you can see, 3 different colours he's got on his wing, and then a slight and different pattern, different way round on the other side. So when you're sewing it together, for those of you who don't sew, you have to obviously sew the thing together inside out, so the pattern is inverted and then turned around. And then obviously then if you've got to do the opposite wing, it's like sort of almost, it feels like it's double inverted because it's got to be inverted from the other side and then inverted because it's inside out. Yeah. So of course, invariably, it was a very hot day. I'm going to use that as my excuse. I made the same wing twice. So he ended up with 2 right wings and no left wing.
I've been using it as a tie.
Yeah, it actually goes quite well with your t-shirt.
It does, I think. Yeah, I didn't realise that. But
beautiful. Yeah, so just to show you that we will make mistakes, I definitely made a few mistakes with the Magpie, but I'm really, really pleased with how he's turned out now. Yeah. And I'm pleased I persevered because I think the patterning on the wing just helps so much to make it look more like that bird. Yeah. So yeah, that was a small fight I had trying to make that work.
I just want to mention before we move on, because we had a few questions about the wings specifically and how they work.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it's not hugely complicated. It's really pretty simple.
Like you said on the owl, it's just a bit of ribbon attached between the 2.
So those are just lifting from the point where they're hinged. And the idea with each of the wings is just that where they're attached, they've got a flat bit at the top where they're sewn onto the body. So you decide what angle that you want them to flap at, and that then dictates where it's stitched onto the body.
And because the owl's wings are so large, I think we mentioned this before, they've got a piece of cardboard in the top of them to make sure that they actually bend in the right place. So
there's card inside there. And because that's the biggest problem you face with them, is that if, when you're lifting them from this piece of ribbon, if there's another point at which it wants to bend before here, so if there's a point where it's weaker or more flexible, or there's not enough stuffing, or you haven't put card in to stiffen it, it'll bend there instead. So we did, you know, when we were experimenting and when we were first kind of trying to get them to work, we had a lot of episodes where they were bending halfway or they just weren't flapping consistently. And this one doesn't have the little loops because we wanted it to be able to do that kind of gliding
sort
motion.
of steering.
Yeah.
And then for the Magpie, it's slightly different to the Robin. I think somebody had pointed that out, and they're right, absolutely it is. It's to do with the same mechanism, in fact, but it's to do with where the wing is positioned. So on the Magpie, we wanted it to flap directly up from the body, sort of parallel to the side like that. So it's stitched across the front and the back. There's slightly more stuffing in the wing. And then it's got a ribbon going from the midpoint, basically, on each wing, attached together, those two ribbons, and then it's got these two little small loops of ribbon on the shoulder to guide the ribbon so that it pulls in the right direction. You then have to put your hand through the ribbon before you put it through the head, and then you simply pull on that ribbon, and it does a really nice flap. With the Robin, it's the same thing, the ribbon attached in the midpoint on both of the wings, but the wings are attached in a similar position to the owl, in fact, because we wanted it to make slightly different. And then for this one, the ribbons, again, the little guide ribbon is across the shoulder that it then loops through, but we wanted this one to pull down. So this one you pull down to make it flap. And it gives quite a cute little...
Yeah, it's lovely. I mean, it's very, very appropriate for the Robin, and that was the idea. That was what we wanted.
It's
was a different feel.
Slightly wonky, even this one, but because it's such a cute little thing, it just sort of made sense for it to be a little bit.
Yeah.
This one's the sort of and its feet slightly go when you do it. It's very funny. So that's all it is. It's a ribbon mechanism on each one, and the wings are just stitched in slightly different places, really. And then move.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the squirrel and the rabbit. So here's the squirrel. I'll hold him on my arm there. You can see this lovely batik again. And again with the squirrel, I decided to give him a kind of white, creamy white panel down the front. Because when I looked at pictures of squirrels again, they all have that kind of white bit down the front. I've done a short squirrel tail in order that it doesn't get in the way of the arm that you're using to put here.
I absolutely love that.
You can put your arm to either side, which helps as well, but it's quite nice. And again, the feet are doing that thing. So and a matching ribbon. Yep. Ratching ribbon, I nearly said that.
A ratching ribbon.
One of those. And then the rabbit,
finally,
who I'm so pleased with, the lovely rabbit. So again, I gave him a white bib, a different shape, because I thought for rabbits they sort of have that puffy chest fluff thing. So I've given him a nice bib like that. It's beautiful. I just love this batik fabric. It's so lovely. Much bigger, obviously, than the squirrel. And then if you turn him around, he's got a little white tail.
Lovely. The other thing I was going to mention about the animal bodies was that, again, somebody had mentioned in the comments that these ones, in fact, have got, apart from these bibs, they've got one piece at the front and two pieces at the back. And somebody watching had noticed that the earlier fabric puppets you made, like the Winnie the Willow ones or the little human guy for the video, for the vlog, for the music video, they had two panels in the front and one at the back because we wanted them to have that little belly.
Yes, so it depends on, the reason why I do that is to give them either a tummy or, in fact with the Magpie, he's got two panels at the front to give him a chest. So in fact they're slightly broad, he's broader at the top than the bottom. And the Robin's got a little tummy. The owl again sort of goes out very, very slightly, and that's why there's two panels at the front. But for the animals, two panels at the back, so that the tail will stick out, so that they're flat. Because if you look at a rabbit or a squirrel, particularly in kind of cartoon form, then they will be relatively flat at the front in order to sort of stick out where their tail is.
You wanted to give them a bump.
They're that way round,
yeah.
Because I just push those two pieces, make them wider at that point.
Yeah.
So that's the puppet side of the bargain, and we're now going to move all this stuff out of the way so that we can show you the set.
So now to have a look at the set and how we're getting on with that. As you can see, we have put these trees up, we put them together, and following on from what I was talking about last time,
Yeah.
they've had all of the hinges added and they've been connected to a central pole. Now, you might remember we showed the little model that I was making and the idea about, you know, having them all on this central hinge. And unfortunately, I think I was so excited about that idea, instead of them making them as flat hinged pieces, that I didn't stop to think it through quite enough. These things happen. I made 40 of these little handmade tubes.
They're made of pizza box card and covered in brown tape.
Yeah. And the reason I had to do that was because they had to be a very precise, a particular size, you know, so that they would slide nicely on the pole. And I attached them all to one piece of set, to the, you know, to these trees over here. And then I discovered that it didn't work. It didn't work because they wouldn't fold flat enough against each other. And what I'd failed to take into account was this foam board is about 10mm thick, and in some places we've got pieces that fold in on each other, and that meant that when you tried to then fold them around that pole in the middle, it just wouldn't work.
They just got stuck.
Yeah, they
so
got
they
stuck.
didn't make this shape, did they? They didn't actually conceal in that, because you wanted them to be able to bend back effectively to house.
I wanted them to be able to do what they're doing now,
Yeah.
to stand like that, so they sort of just look like a tree in the beginning, and then so that the pieces behind could almost fold flat, and they wouldn't come anywhere close to that. We did have a brief debate about whether it was good enough, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy at all.
No.
And these, you know, there's a pile of them over there. They are
now redundant.
yeah, basically. So
I mean, maybe we'll find a use for them.
yeah, maybe. In the
Into a log
meantime,
pile or something.
yeah, maybe.
I think they look like cannolis or whatever they are called. You know, filled with the, you know, whatever.
So we had to kind of re-examine that and come up with another solution for how that was going to work. I thought about whether it would be better to put those little hinge pieces on the front of one of the things or on the back and think about where they needed to sit flat. But in the end, I decided the best thing to do was make the hinges flexible and put them on the corner of each piece. So in fact, these hinges here now are made of straps of gaffer tape, basically.
Gaffer tape to the rescue.
Of mag tape, yeah. So I put one piece on top of the other to make it like a strong strap, and then that is placed onto the corner instead of being put on the actual flat edge of each piece. It's put on the corner, and what that means is when you turn it, it can flex so that it can either go round onto the side or it can go all the way to the front of one of these pieces. So effectively, when they fold flat against each other, they can push. Then they've got a lot of movement, so that'll allow them to go completely flat against each other if you need to.
I think it's safe to say at this point that I don't 100% understand this whole thing. And when I was trying to work it out, I was looking very confused. And I'm still quite confused, but it does work. So
it works, so everybody's happy.
it's
so
good
that's
that somebody knows what they're doing.
So we'll very briefly show you this one. This is the simpler of the two. This is what we're imagining will be Hansel and Gretel's house. So if you just want to flap that leaf around.
So the tree moves round, this comes round and reveals the shape of our arrow house that we showed you last week. This obviously is going to have windows cut out of it, and one that will actually open.
Yep. Absolutely. So that's relatively simple, that one. So let's just, I'll pop that one over this side. Also means that because they go flat against each other, they're really easy,
They're quite
to,
easy
lift
to lift.
up,
Yeah, even I
for
can
one
lift
person.
them. So that's good. So this is the slightly more complicated one. Try not to hit the ceiling. Where should I put it? About there?
Yeah, about there. That's good. I'll just come around the other side.
Squeeze.
So again, it's the you know, the same basic principle, and they've got these hinges that are on the corners of each piece. But it means that the doors for the gingerbread house that we've got behind it can actually hide flat behind here.
And we've done this thing where we decided that the door was going to reveal itself half first. So that's the half reveal.
Yep. And then
that will be a candy cane, obviously, and then
this would fold out of the way.
And then you'd be able to open the door to Hansel and Gretel's house, and you'd go into, not Hansel Gretel's house, sorry, the Gingerbread Cottage, and you go into the Gingerbread Cottage, which again, it will have all sorts of detail on it. And we're hoping to have sweets that come away. We might even have something where you can like take a bite out of it.
Yeah, we really want to be able to have like sweets on it that they could lift up and bite, yeah.
And then there's going to be a smaller tree, which will be the kind of gingerbread oven.
I'll just move this one out of the way again. And then finally...
So I think it's safe to say that Noel was super happy once that actually worked. There was probably a small victory dance that happened.
Definitely a little victory
And I'm
dance.
so impressed, but like I said, I still don't quite understand. But anyway, it's all good. And then we made...
Yeah, then finally we've got sort of, as the kind of active pieces of set, as we said, there are going to be other trees. So there'll be some other foam board trees that are basically static or just on stands. They'll be easy to move, but I'll probably make them just out of a single flat piece, and we'll just use them to fill out the set so it feels more like a forest.
Yeah.
Then we'll have maybe a few central ones at the back again to give you a sense that you're in.
They are going to be interactive in some ways, or they're going to have sort of some magical little moments that happen with them. But
yeah, but not
in
to
principle
this
they
extent.
won't be.
Yeah.
No.
So these ones are really kind of, we're imagining they're like log stumps or tree stumps or something like that. So these are just made out of pieces of foam board that slot together. But the important thing about these was we wanted really to be able to sit on them. So remarkably, they are strong enough to bear my weight. I've been able to stand on them. Obviously Antonia can sit on them. I'm going to add a little bit more inside just to make sure they're completely rigid. Once they've been covered with papier-mâché as well, they'll be a little bit stronger.
But we're hoping that at some point we actually might be able to step on them. We think we can already, but we're not going to show that right now just in case we have an accident. But you should be able to use them as kind of stepping stones. Yeah. I love them, I think they're great. And once they're papier-mâchéed and then spray painted so that they look more like wood, they'll be...
Yeah, and we might include a few little tricks in them where you can take one of the lids off and use it as something else. But yeah, basically those are our little sort of stepping stools or little wooden logs. So there we go. These have got to be papier-mâchéed and then covered and then painted and decorated and all that stuff. That's what's coming next for them. But in the meantime, thank you very much for watching. Please do leave us a comment if there's anything in particular you'd like to know more about. We'll try and answer them all. Otherwise, give us a thumbs up, possibly even subscribe. That's it. Thanks very much for watching. See you next time.